Hi everyone, welcome back to the Divine Healing with Love experience. Welcome back to the capital LOVE tribe. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your support. Thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up for yourself, for loving yourself, for taking care of yourself, for being authentic. Thank you for being unique. Thank you for being an individual. Thank you for giving yourself self-care, time, patience, nurturance, empathy, so you can continue to become your best version. You are loved, you are valued, you are protected. I'm so grateful to be here with you. I'm so grateful to connect with you. My name is Nicole. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. It's truly an honor and pleasure to be here with you and connect with you. So, with the global channeling that I'm doing on this platform, I was guided to speak about the gift of children. Part of my mission here on earth is to uplift, empower, and protect children. I don't take that lightly because, again, that is my mission, part of my mission. That's part of my calling and my purpose. And so I love children. And again, I don't take that lightly. So I wanted to speak about, or I was guided to speak about, the deeper spiritual meaning of being called to parenthood, being called to motherhood, fatherhood, being called to protect children, to guide children, to help children. Children are a true gift. It's a true gift from God, the divine, spirit, source, the universe, whatever you want to say, the higher power. It's a true gift. And it's not something that we should take lightly. Children are, like, when we hear those terms, children are the future. It may sound cliche, but it's very true, okay? Children are here to lead us to a new beginning, to lead us to the next place, to lead us to the next step. At one point, we were children too. And when we came to this earth, to this planet, we had our own job, our own duty, or our own sense of purpose. Maybe some of us remember, maybe some of us are coming back to that place. But we are in a place now on our planet where this is a very unique time. It really is. I've said this before on this platform, but I want to say it again because, again, I'm being told to say it. But collectively, we need to understand the type of pivotal time that we are in on our planet, on this planet, the type of changes that we're able to help usher in for the future generations. And this is why it's so important to really understand, understand, whatever you want to say, the spiritual alignment, spiritual aspects, the deeper spiritual meaning of what it means to have a child, children in your life, or to guide children. One thing about me on my journey, and this is something that I tell people all the time, I don't play about kids. I don't play when it comes to kids. I don't play when it comes to my children, and I don't play when it comes to children, period. That is something that's very sensitive for me. It's it's part of my mission, and it's a part of my purpose. As a collective, we are being guided to really unite and come together to not only help maybe your own child or children that you have for yourself or children that you know are in the family, but unite to protect the children. This is a very pivotal time with that because children's lives are at stake, their souls are on the line, and their innocence is on the line. This is something that's always been the case. However, at this point, again, on our planet, it's even more crucial because every single day our children are being sucked into a rabbit hole of nonsense, of indoctrination, of programming, of things that are meant to rip them down. Sometimes I think that as adults, we forget that, again, I'm a millennial. That's my generation. I'm 38. It doesn't matter what generation you're in. Have compassion, have love, have, that care for the children that are growing up today, the type of things that they're dealing with, and the type of situations that they encounter. This is a very, again, unique time of circumstances, of things that are happening on our planet. And our children are sitting by, watching, and paying attention and absorbing every single thing that they see. We are being called as adults to collectively unite and step up to protect these children and to guide these children. But we cannot do that if we are not finding our own levels of sovereignty, accountability, and being in this place of governing ourselves accordingly so we can move forward to unite. Our children need us. Our children are begging for us the best way that they can. And this is not, again, specific to, it could be the children that you have or the children in your family or the ones that you know, but it's just children overall. They need us. They need guidance. They need truth. They need integrity. They need dignity. They need clarity. These are the things that they need. And again, we are being called to unite and come together so we can hold ourselves accountable and handle ourselves accordingly, but also support the needs of the future generations coming up, because they're going to need that. But let's talk about the deeper spiritual meaning of all of this. When we think about the gift of a child, how a child comes to this earth curious, ready to learn, ready to explore, ready to discover, and the type of things that, again, children are exposed to at a very young age, it's almost frightening to think about the type of things that children are now seeing on a day-to-day basis. I was literally talking to my kids. I have 2 daughters. I was talking to them the other day about something, and they were just like, they were playing outside at recess, they told me, and they were telling me how they saw an airplane flying, or I guess it was a plane. I don't know. Yeah, it was a plane flying. And you know how those planes fly in the air and they have like the banner of an advertisement? And they were like, yeah, we saw an ad for this and that while we were playing outside at recess. And I don't know, it really activated me on a deeper level. Like, I felt like, what? Like, I just was like, when I was a child playing outside at recess, I would have never seen anything like that. Like, that just wouldn't have never happened, right? And they were just speaking about it just like it was just normal. Like, I don't think I ever saw something like that until I went to like when I was older, like in Miami or something. In Miami, like on a beach or something. That's like when I first started seeing stuff like that. Like, they're seeing this now just like, at recess. And some people may feel like, oh, well, it's no big deal. But yes, it's a big deal. It is a big deal because they're seeing ads for like beer. They're seeing ads for like, I don't know, just, you know what I mean? Like, what if it was tobaccos, like cigarettes, or ads for all these type of things? Like, what they saw in the air, it was like an ad for like margaritas or something. So it's the programming. They're seeing that at school. So now their mind is, they're seeing this banner in the sky talking about Taco Tuesday and margaritas. And now they're like, they're curious about that. What's a margarita? My kids already know. They're at the age where we talked about a lot of those things, but what if they were like 6? You know what I mean? Like, we really have to think about things like that. And it goes on such a deep level. And it's almost just like you can't hide your children from the world, or we can't hide children from the world, because I'm just speaking in general, whether you are a parent or not. Again, we are all in this together, because we have to remember we were once children too. And many of us remember when our innocence was ripped away from us. And it's not just one situation, it was multiple times where we felt our innocence. Maybe we didn't know it at the time, but later on, especially if you are doing inner child healing, or you're just being more, thinking about your life in that way, being more introspective, you can recall those moments where your innocence, where you just felt like it was compromised. You were no longer the same. And that part of you remembers that and remembers what you felt in that moment. This is why we are being called to protect our children, to save their soul, because that is what, these people that have these evil agendas, this is what they want. They want their innocence. They want their soul. They want to taint them. They want to take their light. They want to keep them in a place where they can control them. They can manipulate them. They can make them do whatever it is that they want to do. As a collective, it's our time to protect the children, because they come here, they don't know that. They don't know that their soul can possibly be taken from them. They don't know that. They don't know that the things that they're seeing, like when my children bring to me these, certain things that they've seen, I'm so grateful that I have cultivated this relationship with them where they don't feel afraid to show me things. They're not afraid to say this is what they saw, or this is what they heard. Of course, I know they're not going to tell me everything, but I feel like they tell me quite a bit. They're pretty open and honest with me. And I'm so grateful for that, But getting back to what I was saying, when they show me things, I use that as a moment to talk to them on a deeper level, to explain to them what this is about and how this all connects to them in their journey. Many of us are in this place of, we're still trying to find ourselves. We're still trying to get connected. We're still trying to figure it out, because that's what we're doing here. We're all just figuring it out. You know what I mean? We follow the guidance, and we're trying to do our best. But again, we're just trying to figure it out. And this is why I always say, give yourself grace. Be patient with yourself. Nurture yourself. We don't have all the answers, but we're trying. So when we are thinking about the youth, because it's our children, it's not just your child, my children, your children, it's our children. We are their guardians. We are their protectors. We are here to help them, to show them the way. But when we are dropping the ball, and I'm channeling again, and I'm recognizing, even for me, sometimes giving these messages are difficult. We're not in this place of where we need to judge children for their station in life and what they're able to have and what they have access to. That needs to be something that we are dealing with within ourselves, holding ourselves accountable and being accountable for our healing. Within our collective, as each generation continues to grow, mature, and we become more civilized, and we see the growth that we have here on our planet, but we also see the levels of destruction as well. But focusing in on the growth, as each generation grows, we are integrating those new levels of opportunity for gratitude and new levels of opportunity of that understanding that this child or this generation won't experience certain things that the previous generation experienced, because the previous generation knew when they signed up to come to Earth, meaning when your soul decided to incarnate on this planet, you knew that there were certain things that your generation, as a collective, part of that collective, because each generation is their own entity, their own part of that collective. We're a whole collective, but we have those subgroups within our collective. So when we break that down, the generation titles like Gen X and Gen Z and Millennial and the baby boomers, those are your subgroups within your collectives, meaning those people born during those specific years have specific missions and have a collective goal to achieve within that they have agreed upon to do here on this planet. So this is why you see when certain things have come to fruition, certain people brought in new ideas, invented new things. Certain things were really able to evolve, whether it's products or, like the internet and technology, things like that. That specific subgroup within our collective, that generation, had a mission to achieve those things. So at this point on our planet, there's a lot of light. I don't want to just meaning spotlight, okay, right now. There's a lot of spotlight on the millennial generation. There's a lot of spotlight on the Gen Z generation. And now you're starting to hear more about Generation Alpha, which is, I know my daughters are a part of that generation, and there are a lot of other children. But we can't also forget about Gen X, which is the previous generation before Millennials. So with the spotlight being on Gen X, Gen Z, and Millennials, we are at a place, and I'm not discounting boomers as well, okay? They're a part of it too, but I'm just talking about where a lot of the spotlight is right now. Spiritually, again, I'm channeling, and this is the spiritual aspect. So this is coming from the spiritual realm. There's a lot, and this is even new information for me. There's a lot of spotlight on the millennial generation right now, specifically millennials, okay? And again, I'm a millennial, so I'm a part of that. So we're in this together, millennials. We're all in this together, but there's a lot of spotlight on the millennial generation right now. And the spotlight on the millennial generation right now is about, are millennials going to really level up? Millennials are being called to level up. Millennials are being called to... Millennials are doing what they're supposed to be doing. However, millennials are not rising to the levels of leadership as they should. Okay? And even this video now is taking a totally different turn, but that's what this whole thing is about. This is about me channeling for the collective. We're riding with it, all right? If you're vibing with it, thanks for sticking around. Let me just keep getting this information. Okay, so the millennials are not stepping up the way they should, at the levels that they should, collectively. So meaning you do have some millennials that are stepping up, but there should be more millennials stepping up at this time. There's a lack of leadership from the millennial collective, meaning that a lot of millennials feel as though they're not supported, or they are not mature enough to handle this level of leadership. There's still this aspect within the collective, the millennial collective of, I don't want to grow up. That's so funny, but it's true. And collectively, if you're a millennial, I feel that there is that, because I feel that too sometimes. Again, this is some different stuff that I'm hearing. So what I'm hearing is that right now, again, the millennial collective needs to step up into leadership, needs to take the reins at this point, and needs to not be afraid to do so. The millennial collective needs to trust that they are ready to step up into leadership and to really show that the millennial generation is not what everyone says it is. Everyone thinks the millennial generation is all about Instagram, driving Teslas, drinking Starbucks, influencers, stuff like that. The millennial generation is really being called to show the seriousness and the level of leadership that the millennial generation really can be. For the Gen Z generation is really being asked to step up in terms of, so for some of the Gen Zs, there's a know-it-all attitude. And so some of the Gen Z generation is being told to drop that know-it-all attitude and to take some time to do some introspection, meaning like you don't have all the answers. So come off of this attitude that you have all the answers and you know everything that should be done, or you know how this should go, or you know how this should be. I just want to say this. Each generation is supposed to be working together, okay? But through how many years, there's been issues with one generation feeling more superior over the other, and one generation not showing respect to the previous generation or the incoming generation or the next generation. There's been issues with that because this is, again, about us collectively uniting. And each new generation coming in, from what I'm hearing, is supposed to teach us how to come together and have an appreciation for what the previous generation has done. So with the millennial generation, there is a lack of appreciation for the Gen X generation, okay? And the Gen X generation, there's a lack of appreciation for the millennial generation. There's friction here between the millennial generation and the Gen X generation specifically. Gen Z, I'm hearing, Gen Zs respect millennials. The millennial generation is very unique. It's very unique in the way of Gen Zs respect millennials. Gen Zs see the type of work or the type of things that millennials have done to really separate themselves from the Gen X generation. However, millennials have a lack of respect for the Gen X generation. And this is where this friction is coming in, okay? So what I'm hearing, there's a lot of friction and resentment between the Gen X collective and the millennial collective. But there's something here that's coming through about the millennial collective breaking down this wall that has existed between the generations in the past. For example, there was a wall between the baby boomer generation and the Gen X. And then there was a wall between the millennial, or there is a wall still, between the millennial generation and the Gen X generation. However, the millennial and Gen Z generation, there is no wall. The only wall that is there is a wall of time. Millennials and Gen Zs, for the most part, as a collective, okay, I'm not talking about individual situations, as a collective, respect each other. Gen Zs, from what I'm hearing, respect millennials. And this is how it's supposed to be going. So millennials have set some sort of precedence here for how things can move forward, where there can be respect for the incoming generation and there can be respect for the previous generation. However, millennials are being called to to mend whatever this friction is between millennials and Gen X, that it needs to be mended. And this friction needs to die in order for millennials to really keep do some more work. Millennials, and I'm not saying that Gen X haven't really done things. This is not what this is about. This video, as you can see, if you're still you've been watching from the beginning, completely started from something else and now it's going into something else here. This is not to say who's accomplished more, there's no competition here. This is all of us collectively working together to help make a better earth. Okay? So that's not about, who has the title for this or who's doing what. The Gen X, millennials are being called to step up and lead more. However, by leading, there needs to be some type of respect for what the previous generation has done. And the friction is between the Gen X generation and the millennials. And this is causing a big blockage within our collective and our collective unifying. It's almost just there's this block. Millennials, Gen Z, and Gen Alpha over here, Gen X, and the previous generations, the baby boomers and stuff over here. And it's in order for things to really unite further, we have to come together. But a lot of this is between the Gen X generation and the millennial generation. And somehow this bridge needs to be, it needs to come together. The gap needs to be bridged here for this to come together, to create more of an energy flow within our collective, because there's a big blockage here with that. And that's something, again, as I'm channeling this is something new. I wasn't aware of this before. But what I'm hearing is that this is a huge block. This is a huge block. And it's also blocking millennials from really stepping up into leadership. As I was just saying before, millennials are supposed to be stepping up more into leadership. And this is leadership overall. This is within the political sector. This is within technology. This is within media. So many different platforms, sports, just with anything. Okay, millennials are supposed to be now in more leadership positions. But with this Gen X blockage here, this is blocking millennials from really stepping up. Now, what I'm getting for the Gen X generation, the Gen X generation is feeling a lack of respect and a lack of, they don't feel valued, or they don't feel like they were valued. It's almost like the Gen X generation feels overlooked, undervalued, almost as if their contributions don't matter because everyone wants to speak about the millennial generation. So some of that is also blocking things, because the Gen X generation is feeling like they were not able to, their contributions didn't have that foothold on the collective. But this is not true. And this is something that has to be broken down within the Gen X collective. This is something that is holding, because the Gen X collective is waiting for more acknowledgement or more rewards or more accolades or more appreciation. This is blocking the Gen X collective from receiving it, because it's there's a energy that I'm feeling. And again, I'm speaking on the collective level. I'm not talking about individuals, okay? I'm speaking collectively. So there's a blockage here within the Gen X collective that's saying millennials don't appreciate us. Millennials didn't thank us for what, we did. They didn't see the type of things that we had to go through. They didn't see what we had to overcome to be able to do the things that we were able to do. So there's a big disconnect here, okay? And this disconnect is, again, blocking us from collectively uniting and coming together. But because there's friction here with the Gen X and the millennials, some of that is causing millennials not to feel safe and not to feel worthy of stepping up to lead, because there is a big disparity here. And now that I'm really tapping in, when you look at the Gen X generation and the millennial generation, totally different, totally different, totally different ideas, totally different beliefs, totally different ways of doing things. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't want this to come across as judgment. I'm just here, I'm a channel here. I'm channeling. But I did say I'm a millennial, but totally different ways of doing things. But this is also saying that there has to be that level of appreciation, and there has to be that level of understanding of what one generation did was to help the next generation. And this is not to get caught up in needing to know that you're valued or needing to know that you're appreciated. This is for you to dig deeper within yourself, to heal the wounding around why you don't feel valued, why you don't feel appreciated, or what can you do to make yourself feel that level of value and worth? Because again, each generation is building on, like, what the millennial generation is doing, has done, is not going to be the same thing as Generation Alpha. Generation Alpha has their own mission as a collective. They have their own things that they're meant to do, their own energy that they're meant to bring to the earth. The same thing as what the baby boomers did. The same thing as Gen X. Same thing. So we can unite on a deeper level if we appreciate and respect each other for what we are here to do and what we are doing and what we have done. But also allow the next generation to show us different ways, better ways. And don't take that as this is something that you're not good enough or you didn't do anything because a new generation is here bringing in better ways of doing things. That's not what this is about. This is about us as a collective unlocking ourselves on a deeper level and saying there's no ego involved here. You have your own mission. I have my own mission. We all need each other to make this thing work and to make it do what it's going to do. And if you can find a better way to do this, thank you. Let's say thank you instead of judging, criticizing, or saying you're not good enough. Part of the issue I do feel for the Gen X and the millennial friction that I feel, because again, what I'm hearing, the friction is not intense for millennials and Gen Z, and the same thing for Gen Z and Gen Alpha. It's not. The friction is here between millennials and Gen X. And this is causing a lot of blockages. Like, I see a mountain. So that tells me huge energy, huge blockages of energy. And again, this is saying that the Gen X and the millennials, we got to figure this out. We have to figure this out. We have to figure out how we're going to come together. We have to figure out how we are going to overcome this blockage, to move together, to unite on a deeper level. Because what I'm hearing is the Gen Z and the Gen Alpha generation, it could come to a place where it's like their level of respect will solely be with the millennial generation, and they're not going to really look at the other generations as a collective the way that they should, if that makes sense. Like the way that they look at the millennial collective, they're not going to look at the Gen X collective that way or the baby boomer collective that way because of this blockage here that's in the middle. It's almost like choose a side, and it's not supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be a free-flowing energy where everyone can receive their flowers and everyone can be respected. But again, I know, that's a process. We can't get there overnight, but we could start. We could start to remove those blockages by taking time to show our respect, taking time to, honor what each other are doing and how we are all adding value to this collective, but also not looking at this as a situation of like they had it easier or they have it better, or if I had that, I'd be able to do that better that way, and things like that. We can't do that because, again, we all have our own journey. We all have our own story. We all have our own mission. So when we do things like that, we're creating blockages because we're saying that, the way our story was given to us is what held you back, or what made you not be able to do something, or what caused you not to be able to perform at the level that you should have. And that's not exactly true. That's a belief, a limiting belief that was born out of whatever the circumstances are that within that generational or that generation collective is believing. And that's something that needs to be eradicated in order for more unity and more harmony to take place here on Earth. Okay, so I'm going to stop it here for that one. Yeah, it's just kind of just went all over the place. But you know what? I'm happy about this because you know what? I don't know what's going to come out when I start. I start with one idea and then it just evolves. And I'm just going with it. I'm not going to restrict it. I'm not going to control it. I'm not going to force it. But thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in, for connecting. I appreciate you. I love you. If no one told you they love you today, I love you. Thank you again. Love yourself, honor yourself, cherish yourself, be kind to yourself. Really continue to grow on your journey, evolve. Thank you for all that you're doing. Thank you for shining your light. Thank you for being who you are. You are loved, valued, protected, supported, and appreciated. I love you. I'll see you next time.